Hello, this is Groovy Gift Giving. My name is Theodore. A few weeks ago I did a video, actually ended up being 2 videos, on my 10 tips for next level gift giving. And in that video I mentioned that I would be making a full video for each one of those tips, and so this is the second one, which is buy the gift for them. Now I know some of you might be thinking that this sounds obvious, and it should be obvious. It should be obvious, but based on what I observe about gift giving and the mistakes that people still make, it's clear that this isn't, maybe it's obvious on the surface, but people still do things. Let's just say their motivations are a little complicated for why they're buying the gift that they buy. They select a certain gift and they sometimes can trick themselves into thinking the gift is for the person they're buying the gift for, but the motivations are actually a little bit more complicated than that. Our motivations in gift buying are often pretty complicated. Sometimes it's hard to separate our desires from our understanding of other people's desires. And this is just simply a fact of life, I guess. But when it comes to the topic of gift giving, it is something that we really do need to think about, reflect on, and take some time to clarify within ourselves what are our motivations for buying a particular gift. Getting those motivations clear in our head is an important part, an important aspect of next level gift giving. Now, this doesn't mean we have to always buy things for others that we dislike and that we don't want to buy for them, but understanding our motives is an important part of this process. What I would encourage you to do when we talk about these examples, I would like you, instead of thinking about other people and think, oh wow, other people are terrible gift givers, I would like you to really take the time to look inward and consider, am I doing that with my gifts in any way? I think if we look close enough, we'll see that there are times, at least times in the past, when we have done this, where our motivations were a little bit more complicated than we would readily admit. Now, I do want to mention briefly, before I go into my other examples here, that buying gifts for children, our motivations are a little bit more complex. Buying gifts for children can be very, very difficult. And a lot of times we are maybe trying to do something a little bit different than find something that they want at this moment. Say, for example, if you would like to buy a child a educational gift. Sometimes those land, sometimes those don't. It is, your motivation is you want them to learn something and you want to do something that's for their benefit. The kid might not be super happy with an educational gift, particularly not on their birthday or on Christmas Day, when they see it and they see something that they didn't really want or wasn't really on their radar. And yeah, it's our motives are a little bit different with gift buying for children. It's a little more complicated, and that's something that I know at some point down the line I would like to do a full series on gift buying for children. But I think a lot of times we might say want to get something educational, or say if there's if you know, parents who are trying to get gifts for children and what they really have their heart set on is something you can't afford, or say it's something that's the big gift for a Christmas season and they're just not around anymore. The gift is not around anymore. This is where things get really complicated with gift buying for children. I did want to state that. And I also know that there are things that, like, for example, I have, somewhere around here, I have an example of something that I know I got when I was a kid. I don't know how well you can see this. Let's see if I can, yeah, it doesn't really fit in the hole. Oh, there we go, okay. This is something that a relative of mine bought me when I was a pretty young child. I remember it, so I was old enough to remember when it happened. But my a relative, a whole family actually, who moved to Egypt for a few years. I guess it's been a long time ago, but they moved to Egypt, and when they returned one time on a visit, they brought us all gifts back, and all of them were themed, obviously something you had to buy in Egypt. And that tapestry at the top, that when I was a kid, I went by Teddy, and so that is, I guess, would that be hieroglyphics? I think that'd be hieroglyphics. I'm not sure. It's definitely something that specific to Egypt. That's my name, my childhood name, written in hieroglyphics. And I remember getting that and going, thanks, wonderful, that's spectacular. Because as a kid, I wanted toys. I wanted fun things that I could play with. And obviously that wasn't the intent of the gift. The gift was to get me something that commemorated their time in Egypt. Now, I remember I kept it, of course, and later in life, I think probably even in my teen years, I was able to, I came across it and I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. That's really amazing. But it's something I couldn't see at the time period. So a lot of times you have to, when you're buying a gift for a child, for children, sometimes they might give you that look of disappointment on when they open up their gift. But it's not, the intent of that gift was not for me to have something that I could play with immediately as a child. That was not the intent. The intent was that it was something that commemorated their time in Egypt, and it was something meaningful, and again, it's my name on that. So again, this is where buying the gift for them is sometimes tough for a child, buying gifts for children when you want to get them something that they won't appreciate right now. Now, I addressed, this is really, I'm really switching gears here abruptly, really quick. In the previous video where I talked about my top 10 tips, where I mentioned this buying the gift for them principle, I talked about the subject of men buying lingerie for their wife or significant other, and the sort of old joke about, is the lingerie gift really for the wife or is it for the man? And the issue, of course, is very different according to specifically your relationship, and you could argue that it's a gift for us and a very appropriate gift for particularly on certain holidays of anniversary or Valentine's Day. Although, again, mentioned this before, there are a lot of pitfalls in lingerie buying, so I think it's something to avoid most of the time. Let's just say it that way. But it is something worth considering, is who is this gift actually for? So if you're going to buy lingerie, make sure it's not just that you're not just getting that gift. You're getting more than one gift, and lingerie can be one of those. Another example I mentioned in my previous video was a friend of mine who bought his girlfriend the DVD box set for Lord of the Rings. And I fully admit that there are lots of women out there who love Lord of the Rings and would very much like that gift. This was not really the case with my friend. She had not seen the movies. It wasn't the type of movie she liked in general. He loved the movies and he wanted her to like the movies, basically. And so he bought those DVDs for her so that they could enjoy them together, because he wanted her to have the experience of watching those. He didn't sit down and consider her likes or interests and then went out and bought a gift for her. He wanted her to like the Lord of the Rings movies, so he bought her the DVD box set and sort of tricked himself into thinking that this was a gift for her, when in reality it was a gift way more for him than for her. Obviously, if he loves Lord of the Rings movies, it would not be inappropriate for him to ask her to watch the movies with him, and that could be something that she ended up really enjoying. Perhaps she becomes a bigger fan than him, who knows? But in next level gift giving, we consider their interests, their likes first, and deal with exposing them to your interests at another time. Their birthday or Valentine's Day or anniversary is not the time to do something like that. Something else I mentioned in the previous video is the concept of buying something for the spouse, not the house. Now, the example I gave was with a vacuum cleaner, but really it can be anything that's for the house. Anything related to cooking, a microwave or a blender, or anything related to cleaning, like a vacuum cleaner or maybe some sort of expensive sweeper sort of situation. The problem is that making the leap of, oh, hey, she uses the vacuum cleaner, so I'm going to buy her a new one, is sending a very, very bad message. It is the best way to think about it is avoid anything that's for us and avoid anything that's for the house. So make sure it's her interests or his or her interests that you're considering, not us and not specifically the house. Now, I do have one other example I'd like to get into, and this one is specifically a gift that was for coworkers leading up to the Christmas holiday. And I remember this was when I was working a few years ago in a professional setting, and on the last day of work before Christmas, I think that would have been maybe 2 or 3 days before Christmas, I had a coworker, this woman came in, who had worked at this place for a very long time, and she walked in and she handed me a bottle of wine with a bow wrapped around it. She would go out and buy a box of wine and then give them to coworkers, which is actually a pretty good gift. I think it's a very appropriate gift. I very much enjoyed receiving it. Now, of course, she, right after she handed it to me, and I was very grateful when she handed it to me, I was new there. I think this was, I'm positive this was my first Christmas working there. She said something to me along the lines of, oh, I had one left over, and I decided I'll give it to you, which is, I went from being grateful to it sinking in that this was an afterthought for her. So not a great, not a great approach for gift giving in general, but that's really beyond the scope of this video. She handed me the bottle of wine as a gift, and I was very grateful and appreciative, and I thanked her for it. About maybe a half hour or an hour later, I had another coworker come by, and he saw that I had a bottle of wine on my desk, and he walked in and asked me if I was a wine drinker. And I said, yes, I am. I love wine. And he said, okay, just a minute. He went out, walked down to his office, and came back with 2 bottles of wine, 2 extra bottles of wine, the same wine that I had received. And I was very confused. I was like, what is this? And he said, well, I don't drink. You know, he just didn't like alcohol. And another coworker, the one was his and one was one that someone else had received. The other person was, for I guess religious reasons, didn't drink. So I ended up getting 2 extra bottles of wine because they, I guess, didn't feel like they could say, oh, hey, this is, they went ahead and were nice enough to accept the gift, but then they had no intention of drinking it when he saw that I had accepted the wine, and he asked me if I said I loved wine. He ended up giving me the other 2 bottles of wine, I guess, as opposed to handing them back to her, which I guess is, in his mind, was better than, you know, I guess drawing it to her attention that it was a not appropriate gift for him. And after I received those 2 bottles of wine, which, by the way, I loved very much, I drank them all. That was a really good holiday gift for me. I didn't drink them all at once. I drank them over the course of the holiday season, and with other people too, not just by myself. So it occurred to me after he gave me those bottles that she had really not considered her coworkers' interests whatsoever in purchasing these gifts. You know, these were nice bottles of wine, so they were, you know, this was not a cheap gift, but it was, again, something that she really liked giving away and really liked, I guess, you know, I guess she liked the idea of giving this as a gift. And again, I think it's a very appropriate gift for someone who drinks. But again, it was given away without considering whether the person liked alcohol, whether the person, in the other case, didn't drink for religious reasons. But then there's another reason why I think this was a terrible idea for a gift to just give out to anybody indiscriminately. And that is if someone happens to be a recovering alcoholic. That is a horrible gift for someone. And when she handed me the bottle of wine, she didn't know anything about me, if I drank at all, or if I didn't like alcohol, or if I didn't like wine, or if I didn't drink for religious reasons, or, and again, like I said, if I were a recovering alcoholic, which again, that's a horrible gift to give somebody in this instance. So I don't know, I've thought about this quite a bit over the years, that if you want to get gifts for everyone, like for coworkers in this capacity, when you're buying just like one big gift for everybody, one type of gift for everybody, you're going to run into pitfalls of people either not liking it, or instantly giving them away, or in this case, with something like a bottle of alcohol, you could run into a problem of giving someone something that's wildly inappropriate for them. So I think that this is one of the weirdest examples I can think of something that was a very thoughtless gift, even though for some instances it could be a very thoughtful gift, but it's something that you can't make the assumption that everybody drinks. You can't make the assumption that everybody would appreciate this gift. It's something that is very much inappropriate for certain circumstances. So those are some examples of the fails that people run into when they try to buy a gift for someone without really finding out, is this a good gift for them? Again, our motivations often for gift buying are more complicated, and I think this is something that all of us do in one way or another. Certainly not all of us would buy wine for people who don't drink, but it is something that we all need to really put some thought into of, we do bring our interest to the table when we go and buy a gift. There is something that there are things that we do want to buy for people, and that's part of the satisfaction, is not just simply this is something that they would like, it's something that you like buying for them. And that's not something that we should get rid of or anything. It is something that we should clarify in our minds before we go out and buy a gift that's either going to just be a fail, or a subpar gift, or something that causes real harm. So that is it for this video. My next video will be my tip number 3 in my 10 tips for next level gift giving, which is buying a gift that's appropriate for the relationship. If you like this video, please consider liking or subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks.